Today we're going to share our lesson. Our lesson is culture. My teammate is Maria, and our level is fourth grade. And the lesson is going to be 15 minutes per day. It's going to be 5 days long, the lesson associated with social studies. The central focus is this lesson will help students demonstrate their understanding of cultures by describing how the concepts of culture relates to their own experiences. Also, students will be able to explain some of the features of their own culture and define culture and explain some of the attributes. Some of the academic learning standards are draw clear, well-reasoned conclusion with explanations that are composed by print and non-print text in paper or presentation. Identify the main ideas from a variety of prints and non-print texts. And some of the socials are evaluate primary and secondary sources. And for literacy is compare and contrast a first-hand and second-hand account of the same events or topics, describing the differences in focus and the information provided. Other one is provide reasons that are supported by facts and details. Those are some of the core standards. And over here we have the learning targets. Understanding of the basic components of culture, demonstrate their understanding of culture by describing how the concepts of culture relates to their own experiences. Understand and explain some of the features of their own culture. Also, to define culture and be able to explain some of its attributes. The content targets for social studies is the students demonstrate and applies reasoning skills to conduct research, deliberate forms, and evaluate positions through the process of reading, writing, and communication. Education technology will be demonstrate creative thinking, construct knowledge, and develop innovative products and process using technology. And another one will be investigated and thinking critically, research, manage, and evaluate information and solve problems using digital tools and resources. For music, for implementing will be understand how the arts influence and reflect cultures, civilizations, place, and time. And some of the language charges will be a student should be able to construct meaning from oral presentations and literacy and informational text through grade appropriate listening and reading and viewing. The student will be able to speak and write about grade appropriate context, literacy, and information text and topics. And the last one will be students can make accurate use of standard English to communicate in grade appropriate speech and writing. Those are some of the core standards, language targets that I wanted to highlight, but there's a lot of that can be included on the lesson that we made. Some of the successful criteria will be a student will be able to explain the attributes of culture in the visible and invisible aspects of culture. The student will be able to define the concept of culture. The student will understand that everyone has a culture. It shapes how we see ourselves, others, and the world, and that culture is like the iceberg. Some aspects are visible and others are the ones. Students will be able to learn that all people have and share basic needs, for example, water, shelter, respect, and that each person learns a set of behavior and beliefs from the people they grow with, and that each individual has a unique talent and preference. The essential questions for this lesson is, how does culture shape the way we see ourselves, others, and the world? How does my culture shape me? Why is it important to understand culture? How do the invisible aspects of culture influence the visible ones? Why is it important to understand the relationship between the two? Why is it important to understand culture? And next will be Maria with assessments to monitor students' learning. She's gonna explain.
Diagnostic we will use in career chart that will be visible through the week. We will be beginning by asking students what are some things you already know about it, about culture, and this will allow students assess the information, what they are familiar with, and also will help to decide which aspect of the lesson require more concentration and which areas can be reviewed. This is the diagnostic assessment will help us to plan like interventions to regroup students in the middle of the week. And as you see, we can use the KWO chart about culture because we can always have the participations of the students on the morning meeting. That way we can just record what they already know. And since they're gonna be thinking critically, we want to record also what they wanna know. So all these graphic organizer, we are doing it together and will be displayed on the way the students can use it as a reference and visual. On the formative assessment, oral pre-assessment, a student will be answering open-ending questions about culture to the future, their understanding of the same. So students will complete and share their cultural identity on a poster where we'll demonstrate not only what the culture is, but also will help students to know who they are and where they came from. So this is gonna be like a clue for them to discover each other in the classrooms, because as you know, we have a multicultural classrooms. So they are going to write a paragraph and why they are special. So they have to look into themselves and find something that make them special in any way. So this can be presented to the classmates and they can know where the history, background, and identity of the peers. We are going to use this format where the main and the circle in the middle is gonna be whatever they decide, and around it is what they have to be interviewing it. And the writing section in the bottom is just a question where we can start with the scaffolding. I am special because that's gonna help the students to think and write what they feel or what they see themselves. At the bottom, they can draw a picture of themselves. As a summative assessment, we create this tic-tac-toe culture social studies where the students can give the chance to share their understandings of what they have been learning through the week by completing this little game. So besides they can be learning, discovering something, they are going to have fun too. This is gonna be visuals. They gonna cast the lesson itself, and it's gonna be a fun game. So starting from the middle, they're gonna start from the Golden Star, where we add some videos where they can learn what culture is, like the definition. We have it bilingual because, as you know, we in the classroom we have ELLs. So we want to ensure they understand. We are adding show and tell, the writing portion, where they have to decide and fill it up a worksheet. We have it online, so they can do it in their own computer, or we are actually gonna provide the paper where they can choose either or. They can use whatever they decide. The students can bring something where they can talk about the family tradition and share within the group. So music movement, we have the culture song, which is really cute. If you wanna check it out, it's right here. on the tic-tac-toe. They had to create a mini video using the Google Jamboard. It's gonna be a short video just presenting. On reading section, we have a digital storybook. They just click on it and it's about the diverse culture and it's a storybook online. For art, we're gonna have them doing a paper doll where they can represent themselves, their cultures, and how they are, why they are special. But at the same time, we're gonna put them together and see like we all are one, even we are special because we are unique. So as a foreign language, we are gonna show this video regarding to tipos de cultura, which is the many different way to greet people and be nice with each other. For strategies for diverse learners, students will write in the language they are more comfortable with, since we have various bilingual students. This can be English or the home language. Using Aurelia object will be help students to make connection with the vocabulary. When teaching this lesson, we're gonna make a classification on both English and Spanish. And each activity will allow the students to engage with each other as they perform the different activities. So the main difference videos will be used to help students to visualize and make a connection with the content they are learning. Well, when teaching each lesson, we will use gestures, facial expressions, body movements, and vocal change and tonations to add the meaning and interest to this lesson. This is some material that we're gonna be needed is index cards, colorful, that way the students can write the questions, but they're gonna be using markers, colors, scissors, glue, pencils, journal, and tape, because they are gonna be doing hands-on activity. So we also gonna have a poster paper, and the journal is gonna be the cultural books they're gonna make. So go ahead, Anayeli.
Some of the technology we're gonna use is the computer with the internet, because we're gonna be looking at different videos. We're gonna use YouTube, printer, and projector. And some of the vocabulary for this lesson is culture, invisible, iceberg, metaphor, and alien. Lesson introduction, we're gonna start with the entry test. We're gonna gather at the meeting area to introduce the topic of the week, which is culture. We're gonna watch a short video about culture. Here we included the website, so you guys can take a look at it. And also we're gonna have the students watch another short video of how to say hello in different languages. And these videos basically demonstrate how they're gonna help our English learners and other students to have a better visual of what is culture and what each gesture means in different languages. And for knowledge, we're gonna view a KW chart of what students know already, what they want to learn, and what they learn at the end of the unit. For the frontal vocabulary, the way we're gonna introduce is we're gonna use the projector using different Aurelia. As I introduce the vocabulary, I will make real life connections. As a whole class, we're going to come out with our own definitions and the picture that we think that will help us remember what each word means. Pictures and visuals are also gonna help English language learners to refer to it if they cannot remember the definition. And the lesson presentation and practice, the focus will be, we're gonna begin by first telling the students to pretend they come from another planet. They're gonna pretend they're aliens, and they're gonna have a mission, and their mission will be to investigate what is culture, what is unique, different, or interesting about school and community, what explains why people in your community and school think and act the way they do. The aliens are the students are, since they're pretending to be alien, they're expected to return to their homes to report their observation and findings. Students are gonna work together in 3 or 4 to discuss and write observations aliens will make about life in the community. These are some examples. People live in small groups in houses or apartments. Children live with older people. Young people dress in several styles that are different from each other. People eat together, usually sitting around the table. There are lots of cars. They drive on the right side on the road. People seem to know when to stop and go by obeying colored lights. And lesson, and we're gonna, as teachers, we're gonna be trying to answer those questions so that they can get a better perspective of what is culture. Throughout this lesson, we're gonna ask open questions about themselves so we can get to know them better and their culture. The second day, the students are gonna bring some of the questions that they took home as a questioning to answer to their families if they didn't know. And we're gonna share it to the rest of the class. And in the board, I'm gonna write, no one is exactly like me. I have many things in common with the members of my family and community. Then with those questions, I will start the lesson by discussing the different people. That people in various groups often look at people in other groups as different and explain that many differences are related to cultural beliefs and way of things that are passed from one generation to another. I will ask if they have seen this before in their school or community. If so, why has it happened? Ask students to describe some of the differences and why people in one group might behave different from people in another group. And then I will write their responses on the poster board. So
students, I can refer back to the question on the board and explain that all people share basic needs, and they ask them for several examples. So the students needs always to be engaging with each other and within teacher and what they have been learning. Students is gonna have a worksheet label as a future of culture. Students are going to be asked to fill it in an example for each future of culture. So the worksheet direction is gonna be for each feature of culture, think one example common to people in the US or the country where you were born. As we know, we have a second generations here. So just to learn about themselves, histories, and their own family traditions and cultures, students can ask parents to help out with this. That way they can learn from the interview. So it's gonna be about the ways they food, concept of themselves, literature, maybe it can be religious belief or rituals, the role of the family in their own family, in their own neighborhood too. As we know, of course, cultures means music, dancing, and the celebration they do have as a tradition too. Students, they can find, here is some question they are going to take home so they can ask their family for help to finish to knowing themselves, and they can include pictures. And we put some examples right here. What kind of celebrations are important in your family? We did this kind of picture because this is very common, but we always can learn something from each other. So we're expecting to see new things and learn about new traditions that the students do with their own families. We put some visuals about how great people looks like, depending on the age, depending on the family history, or depending on states or where they came from. Also, we want them to think about the people they know. So we have some visuals here, how hospitality in the community looks like in school, at home. So they have actually to think and interview, have family to help out. The particular age and what they celebrate an important event. So we have here as a visual de quinceañera. Typically, quinceañera is very common and something that the little girls look for. But also can be, let's say, first communion, birthday celebration. Some people, they actually make it really special. So the importance, how do you feel, is to have a personal space and privacy. It's very important, and can relax without disturbing. That can be one. So go ahead and Angelia, explain day number 3.
What kind of celebrations they do, how they greet people, the beliefs, and how they do hospitalities, either at home or in school. They're gonna share it to the rest of the classroom, so the classroom can learn about themselves, the student that's presenting, and talk about what they have in common, or if they have something different. And then I will ask, what are the impressions about how US culture has shaped them? They will write their responses in their writing journal as I write them on the board for future references. And I will give each child a worksheet label as everyone has a culture. Everyone is different. I will give them 15 minutes to work individually to complete the worksheet. Then students are going to form small groups of 3 or 4, depending on class size, and compare their responses. So basically, these are simple questions that they ask: what language do they talk? Where do they came from? It's something simple that they can easily do in class, so they can share. After that time, I'm gonna have them share their answers and ask what questions are exactly alike, what difference is difference. And then I will have them share their responses and explain to students that their responses on the worksheet question were a particular shape by the culture they were raised in, and explain to them that if these questions were given to other students from another culture, that there will be more differences among each group. On day 4, I will write on the board, everyone has a culture and it shapes how we see the culture ourselves and others. As students, as a class, to come out with a definition of what is culture. So basically I will write culture on the board, and I will kind of tell the students, give me what do you think was culture? And I will just write it on the board, everything they're telling me.
They can always use the information they got on day 3, and just the teacher just can put it like more visual, writing on a poster or the ESO for a better understanding, and just also to compare what the students have in common. So how culture is transmitted from one generation to another. It's really important for us to explain, and often unconscious, people are sometimes not aware of how they behave and the attitudes they have been shaped by their culture. So people in all culture have common needs, And we have to let the student have really clear conscious that this is look for what you have, or maybe because you've been shaped in your family like that doesn't mean like everybody's gonna be like that. That makes you special. So after having that discussion and coming up with a definition of culture is, they will write a following question in the index cards. Every group will have cards where they have the opportunity to respond and rotate within the group and write it in the journal. So each card will have a question, for example, how do you think you learn your culture? So they have to think, probably with making intense thought about what the interview, they will be able to respond there like really easily. But despite the difference in the culture in our class, they have to think what are some things that everyone in the class has in common.
On day 5, I will introduce the iceberg and how it is compared. And I'm gonna have them watch a little short video so they can have a better understanding of what is an iceberg and what is how it is compared to culture. The students will be given a worksheet of culture as an iceberg for them to have a visual for future reference. They will cut and glue in their journals because they're gonna be using it for the following up lesson, and they can refer back. And also because this visual is gonna illustrate what's invisible about the culture and what's not what's visible. For example, they're gonna lead relationship with animals, nature, friendship, attitudes toward elders, etc., etc. Examples of observable behavior, which is gonna be on the top of the iceberg. This will be food, dress, music, art, drama, craft, dance, literacy, language, and celebrations. And then
we have to make the point that only about 10% of the iceberg is visible above the water. So the rest is below water. Culture is very similar to an iceberg. It has some aspects that are visible and many others that can only be suspected, guessed, or learned as understanding of the culture grows. So as numbered items on the list are all features of cultures. If the students haven't completed the worksheet, we will make sure they understand and we will help out. We can work with a small group just to help them to finish that worksheet. And the most important thing, they need to understand what is all this about.
And this worksheet, the students are gonna be provided with this little outline, and they're gonna work together as a group to answer to make the distinctions between things that go below the water and above the water, things that we can see and things we can't see. So basically for this lesson, they're gonna be able to use all the notes they took during the previous days, their visuals, the culture, features of culture, and they're gonna brainstorm together and decide which features of the culture goes underwater and on the top.
They will be working with team in a group because it's more easy sometimes for the children to learn from each other than having all the time teacher just talking in front of them. So we want this lesson to be hands-on, to give them the opportunity to verbally improve themselves and to learn from each other. They would have to pair up with another students to convert the placement, and they have to discuss why they place a particular feature where they did. So it's always gonna be discussions around, and it's gonna be learning.
For guided learning, for lesson 1, students will be introduced to the unit by having them pretend to become an alien from another planet. In lesson 2, they will discuss in various groups, often look at people in other cultures as different, and explain that many differences are related to cultural beliefs and ways of living that are passed from one generation to another, as open-ended questions, and have them think critically.
Lesson 3, students will share their poster and that they took home. So this is just one example. The celebration, they are important to their family. Maybe like, this month, we just have First Communion. The majority of the kids they were talking about, because in 4th grade, this is the age where the students get important events in their life, like one-time event. To celebrate an important event in their lives with their family, can be with the community, and why and how it's important is having the space and privacy. Go ahead.
In lesson 4, we're gonna watch videos to illustrate what is culture and to help them have a better understanding and a definition of what actually means culture for everyone. And for lesson 5, students are gonna be reminded that culture is a complex concept. Everyone has a culture, and it shapes how we see the world, ourselves, and others. Ask the students if they know what is a metaphor, and explaining that it helps understand the big idea by relating something we know to something we don't know. Ask students what they know about size and shape or an iceberg. So basically all the lessons will be introduced in the group, and then there's gonna be a lot of scaffolding. Teachers are gonna be there as a student teacher referring to. So it's gonna be a lot of guidance, teacher helping them walk through each lesson and explaining to them.
Also during this time, the students are working. A teacher can do a quickly informative assessment. You can make observations. You can just take a notes really quick and see what you need to focus, what the clarification, and how you can be setting it up, the interventions in case you need it. Remember, we always have below levels, on levels, and advanced level students. So we have always to plan with intention to meet every student level and needs.
Students are gonna work independently and in groups, and most of all, they're gonna think critically, which is very important for students to have them think and refresh their minds of what they have been learning through the 5-day lesson. There's gonna be a lot of issues for the students to refer back, and since they're gonna be writing in the journals, they can also use what they have been writing. It's not just gonna be them trying to like come out with the answers. The teacher's gonna explain them, talk about the subject, and the students are gonna be split on groups and work in different activities to reinforce their learning about culture. The lesson wrap-ups and closure, review learning targets and success criteria, show respect and their awareness of other culture, list examples of their own culture, define and give examples of visible and invisible aspects of culture. Everyone has a culture, it shapes how we see the word ourselves and others, and the extension activities are.
For extensions activities, we will have the students to bring something that is a tradition at their home, something special for them, like a family plates as a visual to share with their classmates. And they can bring more than one item because they will be doing the show and tell in the TikTok. So students has to give us a brief explanation of what it is and why it's meaningful for them, or why it's a part of history, culture, or belief, because you never know. They can bring you something they believe that, and it's important for them. So we have to always respect and just show the kids that they need to give them the attention and to learn something from each other. For writing, students will write their own family secret recipe. We will give them a rubric, steps 2, and a format. Why not? Some students, they need to have a format to be able to make their writing. So a student will write with a proper recipe with the steps. So they can do it independently at home with their family help, or they can do it in the class. They will compare and contrast their culture with each other. Last but not least, a student will have a variety of books available besides the one online. We have in EPIC, you will find a lot of various books about culture on their level. So that way each student got the opportunity to explore and experience cultures from around the world.
This is it. I hope you guys enjoy the lesson and keep it for future references. The lesson was designed for teachers to follow step by step. In case the main teacher misses, the substitute or another person can teach the lesson using the step by step. And thank you for watching.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.